What is OCSF? Well, let's start with what it stands for. It stands for Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework. Now that is a mouthful. OCSF is not a product. It's not owned by anyone, but it is a schema. A schema is a way that you structure your logs and other important security data so that it is readable by humans and machines. So instead of just having the historical blah of log data that's being generated by access logs and web logs and all of this, it's now this really nice structured schema so that you can very quickly identify this is someone logging in. This is someone requesting from a blacklisted IP address. Why do we care about OCSF right now? I like thinking about these things in terms of observability, since that's where my background is. And over in the observability space, we care about log data, metric data, and trace data because that's how we monitor our applications. In that universe, all of that monitoring was predominantly done through paid agents by paid vendors. Now we go and look through this through the same lens of security, and we've got a pretty similar structure. We care more about log data than we do about traces and metrics, but it's still the same collection mechanism, it's still the same storage mechanism, and all of this ecosystem is, with an asterisk, pretty heavily locked in by vendors. And in both cases, you have the open telemetry format, which is gaining popularity, and you've got the OCSF schema that's gaining popularity. And both of them are doing multiple lifts at the same time. It's breaking vendor lock-in and it's bringing a uniform standard. So you're able to get more value out of that data instead of having to really just deal with someone's arbitrary format that's being thrown at you, and now you've got really complicated queries and nonsense to go and wade through. OCSF, it's in the name, is a schema. Why do we care about this? Well, ultimately, it is a way of unifying and converging all of our structured, unstructured, semi-structured data into speaking the same language. You're probably thinking, what does all of this mean? Okay, at the moment, you get log data from Cloudflare, you get it from Amazon, you get it from Okta, you get it from your own applications, and all of these have different structures. OCSF is the one schema to rule them all. It means that when you're collecting data from Okta and collecting from Amazon and collecting from your application, it's all structured the same way, which means that you're able to query against that data in the same way and not need to jump through these hoops, massaging or transforming or creating these very, very brittle and complicated queries. So why do you care about this? You find the data that you care about faster, able to act on it faster, able to be notified about it faster. Why now? Ultimately, being able to act on your data, being able to find things faster, being able to generate those reports or generate those alerts faster is extremely valuable. Looking further down the road, LLMs are going to thrive on this categorization. It means that they need to do less in order to find the important pieces, and they can now act as correlation bits without needing to load up a whole bunch of junk context to find the pieces that they care about. It's going to be a really critical stepping stone in the future of our AI and LLM powered observability and security stories. When we talk to people, we hear a little bit of skepticism about pipelines. Hey, my company's been around for 10 years. We've had a security team for 7. We have a way of solving these problems. We already do transformations. We already have legacy infrastructure that normalizes our data or extracts out the bits. And we've got our queries that run that, it's a nested stanza monster that's able to go and find the things that we care about. And on the one hand, cool. Congratulations, that's nice, you have a system that's working for you. On the other hand, it's only going to become more and more of a mess. And pipelines aren't a tool to go and replace security analysts. It's a tool to accelerate security analysts. We want you to be able to get all of the data from all of the different sources and normalize it so that you can spend your time working on detecting, on triage and remediation, instead of on creating these bespoke brittle transforms or bespoke brittle queries. So the pipeline, basically there are 3 different places that you can go and fix data. For security, most common is fixing data when it's at rest by constructing really complicated queries. Now your other option is fixing the data at the source. You can use tools like Logstash, FluentD, FluentBit, Vector to normalize that data, but that usually requires you to go and wrangle an SRE or an engineering team, or you can even go upstream still and have a schema enforced on the engineering team on the data that they're emitting. Now you've got social problems, you've got cross-team problems. And the reality is you'll never be able to go and control all of those sources, both because there's always going to be a new data source popping up, and also because we get data from third-party vendors. we can't control what Okta generates. We can't control what Cloudflare gives us. This is where the pipeline comes in. So if you're dealing with everything when it's at rest, you've already paid for everything, which means all that data is there, it's in the format that it's in, and it's slow for you to query. It's even slower for you to transform at rest. The pipeline as a middle layer means that you can instantaneously normalize, make decisions about that data. Maybe this is a duplicate log. Maybe this is just craft. Maybe this is staging information. And so you can make decisions like, I'm gonna stick everything in blob storage and keep that for a rainy day, but I'm gonna send the bits that I care about over to my SIM, to my observability, to my business team, to whomever needs that data. And so the pipeline is meant to act as a buffering layer to make sure that you're sending the highest value data to the appropriate place. Now there's skepticism around, listen, we already have tools that do that. That's great. We're not looking to replace those. We're looking to complement those. The next data source, the next SaaS vendor, the next product or feature or application that gets stood up in your business. Pipe those through the platform and incrementally see the value that they start delivering. Why involve a pipeline? Because ultimately, instead of your team spending time building bespoke transformation scripts and bespoke query scripts, you can use a pipeline that empowers you to do normalization in literally seconds versus weeks of work. And then that time that you freed up can be spent in triaging, alerting, detecting, and acting on that data. So here's why OCSF matters to you, your boss, the head of engineering, the head of security, and the CEO. Why it matters to the whole company. First and foremost, most obviously, it's breaking down data silos. It's normalizing all that different data, which means it's going to be faster for you to find and detect, triage, and act on that data. That's amazing. It means that you can find threats faster. Great, your job's better. Why does that matter all the way up the chain? Well, obviously, not being breached, good value add right there. But more to the point, because we have that data categorization, we can start making smarter decisions around the data that we're spending a lot of money on. It itself is a schema, it's a framework. It doesn't make decisions for you, but you can now use tools that can look at that data and make decisions far better than previously. What does this mean? It means that you can send less data to your really, really expensive SIMs and really, really expensive SOARs and observability tools, and instead stick everything in S3 and only send the data that you care about over into those tools that you use every day, and that speeds them up and that saves you money. By having that data categorized, you can be really smart around making decisions with that data. Now, it's also worth saying that Dartable does that categorization for you. There's a ton of vendors out there that talk a big game, talk about OCSF, they just don't adopt it. This is a schema that's only been around since 2002, since Splunk and AWS got up on stage and announced it. It has a long way to go, but we can help you with that journey. We speak so many different wire protocols. You beam your data to us, and we will automatically translate it into OCSF, meaning that you now have a unified playing field to make decisions on your data and send it wherever it needs to go.